This is a post calling out YouTube trying to block VPN usage. Now, I will give more context to this in a second, but this was a post that basically went viral on Reddit, and then in about 16 hours, once it started getting a lot of likes and upvotes and comments all in agreement about what this poster is trying to say, it was deleted by a moderator of r/YouTube. Now, this isn't the first time that Reddit obviously has kind of bowed down to entities, certain corporations, or even governments to a degree. We have definitely seen it. I think we all know that Reddit is a pretty shady site for the most part, especially when it comes to the moderation team and kind of what usually hits the top trending pages and stuff for, like, on Reddit. I have definitely seen manipulation. I think anyone that has actively browsed the site definitely sees that. But one thing that really sets this apart from the normal, usual activity of Reddit is that this post, if you take a look, it has 16k upvotes, has almost 750 comments, and if you go and start scrolling through all the posts, it pretty much unanimously, the entire comment section is in agreement with the original poster. For instance, that requiring VPNs or blocking VPNs, for instance, on YouTube or just on the internet, and the Online, Safety Act, what it's trying to do, the invasion of privacy from all these governments left and right, it's very unacceptable. And you collectively see for a rare moment, you see Reddit actually in agreement. You see Reddit actually, upset with what's going on right now with the internet. And when you take a hard look at this comment section, you would wonder to yourself, anyone looking at this would be like, you know what? Yeah, there's no reason to remove this post. But then you go up to the top and you see it's been removed by moderators. And this really just paints a pretty grim picture. It showcases that regardless if this was removed by automation or not, it's very clear that Reddit, most likely, which has been known to censor people, we know this for a fact, it's been known for years, that it's very obvious that if it was a bot or not, or a real person that did this, they don't want you talking about the internet being under attack. They don't want you talking about what YouTube is doing. They don't want you talking about what the governments are doing, or the UK is doing with the Online Safety Act, or what Australia is doing, or what the United States is doing. They don't want you talking about that. And I've already commented on this a few days ago, that it's very obvious that YouTube is censoring this content. It's very obvious that YouTube is forcing the algorithm to not recommend these type of videos. It's very apparent. And everybody, I've had a lot of content creators personally contact me on social media saying, yeah, Chibi, I've experienced the exact same thing. Content creators bigger than me that have actively been hit by this as well, that their videos that they upload on this subject matter does so abysmal, and a regular video they upload just does extremely well. And it's very odd. It's not normal whatsoever. People, even in the niche of talking about content like this, is having the algorithm not recommend these videos. I think one thing is fundamentally clear here, and that is the internet is under attack. That all these governments, like for instance on Australia, and Europe, and European Union, to UK, to Canada, to United States, I believe Indonesia as well, and I believe there's countries in South America too, that is trying to do the exact same thing as what the UK did with the Online Safety Act. And it's very clear that this is, it's coordinated. I think nobody can deny it. It is completely coordinated to everything going on, to all these age verifications, all these major sites, to what's happened to Spotify, Wikipedia, Internet Archive, to what's happened now to obviously Reddit, what's happening on Twitter, what's happening on YouTube, what's happening to these just different legislations and laws and bills or whatever in Congress or different forms of government around the world. This does not just happen. And I have a few thoughts on this I will talk about in a moment. But one thing I want to point out is that we have seen continuously these congressmen and women and people within the government harping the same thing over and over. This is a representative, a congresswoman within the United States, literally advocating for the Screen Act to be passed. You literally have the words out of her own mouth literally say, children should never have access to adult content online. And this is what I've been talking about when it comes to the optics. The optics here is that these politicians, these governments, these companies are screaming that, think of the children, protect the children. But in reality, they're using that for people can't fight back against these laws or bills. Because if you fight back against these laws, you look like a creep. You look like a weirdo. You look like someone that has some very devious ideas. And so if you were to fight back against this, you are a bad person. That is what this line, this wording is trying to do. It is trying to use the optics of children to make you silent. That is what it's doing. But in reality, what these bills are, and we've already witnessed already, just in the UK, it is being used to invade people's privacy. It's being used to violate your rights, silence you, know what you're doing, and knock on your door if you say the wrong thing that the government doesn't like you saying. We see this already happening in the UK. They have literally an entire law now to where if you even talk about mass migration online, you're labeled a terrorist. They straight up do that in the UK now. And so it's clear what these governments are trying to do. They're all saying the exact same thing. There is enough evidence to support that something is coordinated here. Now, regardless of that, the good news here is that this congresswoman that obviously is trying to push the Screen Act, which here is, here's the Screen Act. I don't want to flashbang you, but I'm sorry, for flashbanging you. It is pretty much the exact same thing that we've been talking about. It's a bill that's trying to do exactly what the UK did. Force ID, age verification, or face recognition, or whatever. And we know this is all about data collection. This is all about knowing what you're doing for they could sell it to companies, or know if you're saying the wrong thing, whatever. It's very obvious what this is. These governments, these companies, it's all about data collection and knowing what you're doing to attach a face to everything. But the point is that this congresswoman got ratioed. A lot of people are ratioing her. You can see how many millions of views has already been on this, and you can see that she even got community noted. And this community note really just exposes the inherent flaws of what these governments and companies are trying to do right now. I want to read this community note because I think it's actually perfect. The post implies that it is not currently possible to restrict children access to the internet. Parental controls are easy and available in almost any digital environment. It's the duty of parents to apply them. That instantly shuts down any of this argument. I could not have worded it any better, but let's explain exactly why this is important and why this is a good counter-argument. Obviously, parents should parent. Stop being lazy. That's a big obvious thing I've already talked about videos ago. But parental controls are technically a staple within electronics. I mean, hell, I remember my Xbox 360 when I was playing Xbox 360 back in like 2007 and 2008 and stuff. And, when Halo 3 and ODST and all of them came out, there was an update to improve upon parental controls. Parental controls have been a thing basically since I was a kid, since the internet was still really fresh for everyone, since the internet was really just spawning out of like the soup, the primordial soup, it was, there was already parental controls to block access. There was parental controls on routers. I remember this. I remember having the router have parental controls on it, and I remember having to ask my dad about that type of stuff. It was a thing. It is a thing, and I know for a fact they exist. And even if the parental controls in the past weren't quote-unquote amazing and maybe easy to circumvent, the point is parental controls have always been there, and also parenting is a thing that you should obviously make sure your child's not doing anything. And so right here, this statement here is a perfect counter to everything. That every electronic, anything that really accesses the internet, does have controls to some degree. It's these parents are just too lazy to go into the settings and activate a parental control and password. And so they want to be upset about this, and then it's the big old government that comes in to do the parent's job, which is honestly unacceptable. It is. Completely unacceptable. The government shouldn't be stepping in for a parent's job. The parents should be the ones doing it, and they should be responsible for it. But I'm getting completely off topic. The point is that this congresswoman got called out for her optics, trying to obviously push this bill, the Screen Act, literally just a few days ago, getting ratioed for it. Good news to see the internet waking up and talking about this, and I think that this is very important to really elaborate on. I don't think these governments, these payment processors and organizations and everything understand what they're doing. They are waking a sleeping beast. They are. Most of the citizens of the internet, people that just browse over the internet, play their games, read their series, whatever, even pirate stuff, they keep to their niches, they keep to themselves, and they just do what they want to do in their own personal space. But when you start encroaching upon these internet users that have stuck to themselves for so long, you're going to piss them off. You're going to awaken a sleeping beast. A beast that honestly has been asleep for decades, basically since the dawn of the internet. And what anything has showed us for the decades that the internet has been alive, is that if you somehow manage to anger a good chunk of the internet, it's not good. There is a lot of people that use the internet every single day. Millions upon millions of people. The number is insane. And if you start encroaching upon this silent majority, people that keep to themselves, and you start restricting them, you start forcing them to reveal their identity, you start blocking VPN usage, you start blocking sites because it's all in the name of protecting children, people are going to retaliate. You can only push people so far until they eventually retaliate. History has showed us this time and time again. Pick up a history book and look for your history, you will see this. Anytime people are oppressed continuously and they're pushed lower and lower into the ground, they will fight back. They will. It's just the question is where is that line of retaliation? Where is the line? Where is it when it's pushed too far? And I think with how quickly the censorship of the internet and the attack on the internet has been in just the last 2 weeks, it's being pushed quite far. The fact that we have, for instance, like YouTube introducing an age verification ID in literally like a week from now for the United States, not the UK, says enough. Once YouTube does that, other sites in the United States are going to follow 100%, because we all know why YouTube is doing it. It's not about protecting kids. It's not about keeping kids off their platform. It's about collecting data. It's about selling your data. It's about putting a face to the data. It's about knowing what you're doing. And it's about basically just invading your privacy. That's pretty much all it is. That's exactly what it is. And making money off you. Yeah, that's another thing to add on. That's literally what they want to do. And other big companies are going to see the same thing. They're going to see the opportunity of the optics of Think of the Children. And they're going to do the same thing that YouTube is doing. But obviously they're going to be trying to profit off of it. Exactly. Once one company does something, others will follow. And if people do not fight back against what YouTube is doing, for instance, other companies will do it. 100%. And the fact that we have, like, for instance, Reddit posts getting censored and clear moderation of this alone already showcases a very bleak future. That these moderators, these controllers of these different sites, these governments, these companies, they're not your friend. They never have been. But it's clearer than it's ever been at this point. They want us all to fight. They want us all to bicker amongst each other about politics of left and right. But that's what they want. They want us to fight. They don't want us to unite and rally and see the bigger picture here, that the entire internet is going to get censored. The entire internet is going to be forced to ID itself, or age verification, or blocked to some degree. There's even reports that there is actual people within the UK and different places around the world that are getting DNS blocked. Now, this is easy to circumvent. But for the casual person that browsers the internet, a DNS block is also a pretty big deal. I mean, it's still technically a big deal, regardless if it's easy to get around or not. You have these governments and companies and ISPs, internet service providers, blocking DNSs and stuff like that. It's not good. It's not. It is just all of these organizations working together to really control the internet. Get it under its reign, because it's been too free for too long. There's too much information that people are able to gather and know about and explain to each other without any barriers, without any walls stopping people. They don't like that. And, I mean, once again, a big indication of this is just the attack on Wikipedia. Obviously, Wikipedia isn't always right, okay? I don't even think it's obviously the best source of information. But it is still a source of information. And the fact that that is being attacked by governments says enough. They don't want you trying to research. They don't want you learning. They don't want you to know. That's a problem. Spotify. I mean, it's just music. Censoring that doesn't make sense. I've went on and talked about this conversation a lot. But the big point here is that we have more indication that our governments, even the United States, right here, is trying to push these laws. People need to keep speaking up about this. People need to keep talking, because when you stay silent, they're going to think they can get away with this. Hell, they might still get away with it. You want to know why? You have, in the Kids Online Safety Act for the United States, it's just Republicans and Democrats. Both sides are agreeing to this. I mean, there is over 40 co-sponsors to this bill. Okay? By the way, the same co-sponsors on this for the Kids Online Safety Act are on the Screen Act. Now, obviously, the Screen Act, if you look at the co-sponsors, there's only two. And it was introduced a lot earlier, by the way. I want to point this out. It was introduced basically at the beginning of this year in February. And the Kids Online Safety Act was posted in May of this year. Obviously has a lot more co-sponsors, but the co-sponsors of the Screen Act, which pretty much does the same thing as, Kids Online Safety Act, has 2 Republicans, and these same 2 people are co-sponsors within this as well. But once again, I want to point out, try not to make this a left or right thing, because once again, you can see Democrats and Republicans on this. It's not a left or right thing. It is both sides of the government collectively wanting us to bicker at each other, distract ourselves from the big issue. Another big thing that really irks me about this whole situation going on right now in the world, now this might be enough to call me a conspiracy theorist, I find it interesting and ironic that we have all these laws and these restrictions to the internet happen. At the same time, there is conversation around the Epstein list. It is strange. Obviously, it could just be a very wild coincidence. Maybe all these governments coming together and trying to pass the same laws and restrictions on the internet, maybe it is all a coincidence. But it is strange that all this starts really ramping up soon as there is massive conversation around Epstein and getting the entire list out there, getting the knowledge of what's really going on and people that have really been hurting kids. It's strange we have this stuff with payment processors as well, or collective shout, just pretty much kind of spawn out of nowhere as a major distraction. It's weird. Extremely weird. It's like these governments are trying to paint themselves as like, oh, we care about kids. We care about, the children. But do they really? Do they really now? Because the evidence proves they don't. Especially after seeing what UK is doing. So, yeah. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. Wanted to talk about this because obviously there's been an evolving story. Seeing Reddit censor posts. Wild stuff. VPN apparently being blocked on YouTube. Also kind of crazy. My VPN, by the way, isn't blocked. I do want to state this. But I do think that it could be just a UK thing. But this obviously could ramp up and get a lot worse around the country. Like, if I don't talk about this and bring awareness to this, I think, it's not a good thing. I want to speak up and just make sure more people are aware of whatever's going on here. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. I love you guys. Be safe. Stay healthy. Chibi out.